Welcome to another episode of the Online Prosperity Experience podcast. You're about to hear your host, Prosper Taravinga's powerful digital marketing strategies and actionable tactics that you can use right now. Prosper has helped more than 50,000 people from over 10 countries to create meaningful businesses that are profitable and enjoyable. Listen to this podcast so that you too can build your own business with less stress and overwhelm. Let's get started.
The importance of updating a website regularly. Now, my Internet Explorer friend, and that's the name we call the people that listen to the Online Prosperity Experience. How are you, by the way? I got a question for you. When was the last time you updated your website? Don't worry, I can wait. When was the last time? Because if it's longer than 3 years, and it's about damn time you review how your website is actually representing your brand. Because as a coach, consultant, or small to medium business, if your website looks old, it will damage your brand. All right. And I'm not saying this just because I'm saying, let us fix your website or anything else. I just want you to think right out of the box. Okay. Imagine you're going to meet up with a really good client that's probably signing $100,000 check immediately as soon as you get into their office. Now, would you not scan your wardrobe and choose perfectly pressed outfit, for you to show up and present yourself? Or would you just go in with your pajamas or whatever it is that you wear when you're watching Netflix, or maybe a wrinkled shirt with pants that's been maybe soaking in your dirty hamper for weeks and it smells like cigarette smoke? Of course, you'd likely choose maybe clean clothes because you want to make the best impression possible. Now, why are you not doing that with your website? Because your website is out there 24/7, selling for you, representing you, talking about exactly what it is that you do and how you can help people, make sense of the world around them. So why are you presenting as somebody who's homeless when you actually have the capability of changing people's lives and solving people's problems? I mean, yes, as coaches and consultants, we talk about not judging. But let me tell you something, man. Our clients do. Other people judge us. They put us in a little box. How you show up, how you present yourself is exactly how you're judged. And the same rule happens in the digital realm. If you want to present your brand in a way that's modern and clean, if you want to present yourself as a trusted advisor, then you need to be regularly updating your website so that it reflects the kind of person that you are, the brand that you, aspiring to become. Let's keep talking about clothes because obviously we've already opened that loop. Let's say last year's fashion, especially when it comes to clothes. And I know you're not vain. You're somebody who's concentrating on your consulting, your training, information. You don't worry about fashion. But guess what? Our clients do. All right? So last year's fashion already looks old. Last year's fashion is already out. And especially in the terms of, modern language, it's been cancelled. Last year's smartphones already look old. A smartphone that is got a broken screen or just doesn't look like it's new or something like that already looks old. Because in the customer's mind, they're asking themselves, if you can't look after yourself, how in the name of business are you going to be able to look after other people and them? Or you're just going to need their money in order to then create yourself. The way you look matters. The packaging matters, especially when we're online. where people don't have an opportunity to see how well you are in person, to hear how good you sound or how intelligent you are. Your website is doing a lot of the talking. And if you're showing up as a disheveled, homeless man from downtown Melbourne, nobody's going to want to talk to you. And still in the realm of speaking about things that are getting old. Last year's fashion is getting old. Last year's smartphone is getting old. And last year's websites are starting to look old. Because our screens are getting faster. Our screens are getting smaller. And our screens are getting much more dynamic. And if your website is not keeping up with any of that, you, my friend, are just spraying and praying with your marketing out there. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little. But if your website is older than 3 years. Okay, all right, let's make it 5 years. Then you're no longer in the race. So much has changed in that time. A lot of people are still presenting with websites when they started. Understandable. It was a labor of love because maybe you created it by yourself and things of that nature. But, the functionality has gone old. You've been patching things onto your website. Now it just looks like an afterthought. Whatever the exact time frame, there's no doubt that, any given look and feel for a website eventually grows old. Some colors are, the talk of the month, but nobody wants to see a black and white website now. And I was having a problem with a client who, they had a designer who was so ill-informed about the current happenings of a website and was bragging about the time in experience that they've been working on website and websites and how they have 12 years experience. And that's 12 years too many. Websites no longer function in the realm that they were functioning even 5 years ago. So as a coach, consultant, or small to medium business, or an owner of any business, you can't allow that to happen. You can't allow time to go between the last time you had a website revamp to the time that you're actually showcasing or presenting it to somebody who's learning about you for the very first time. You can't have a website that looks like it's been worked back in 2005 or even worse, before Y2K in 1998 or something of that nature. And in some ways, it's odd that a website design should be so susceptible to changes in fashion, because, it's one of those things that when you create it, you usually want it to last you throughout. But guess what? If a particular look and feel works, why change it? I understand that. But some aspects, looks of the website, if they haven't been updated, people can tell. All right. And when you're out there in the marketplace, no matter how good you are competing against what the industry has set standards for. So you can imagine if your clients have just come from a BMW website where the car actually literally drives through their screen and they can see what it looks like inside, and then they have a few fully immersive, look and feel of the website, and then they come to your site and it's still going. That sound, the mating call of the internet back in the time. Can you imagine they're going to stick around for that? No. So look around and see what your clients are coming from and where they're going to go to after. And if your website is not matching that flaw in their life, guess what? They're not going to come back to you. Let me tell you something. We have to change it for the same reasons that, retail spaces update the design of their logo, the design of their shops from time to time, and then they redesign the interiors of their stores. It's important that you and your website seem to be up to date, because if you haven't looked at your website for maybe 10 years or 15 years, then how are you going to be able to look at my phone? How are you going to be able to look at my portfolio? How are you going to be able to look at my health, my wealth, or my relationship? And the one thing that sends people's radars off is when they look at the copyright of the website, which is something you have to constantly be changing and checking. Because if your website says, let's say this is 2022 and it says copyright 2020, that means that website hasn't been touched in 2021 and in 2022. So you haven't updated that website ever since then, you sure? Things like that. So if you're working in the online space, it's particularly important because you want your site, to the appearance of your site to reassure your prospect that you are on the leading edge, that you are there, that you're current. And in other words, the design of your coaching or freelancing website is part of the messaging and the actual branding of your business. Because right now, if your website looks like it wasn't updated in the last 2 years, people will look at what was happening in the last 2 years. Okay, so for instance, this is 2022, and I'm not trying to date this podcast, but I'm just giving an explicit example. Between 2020 and 2022, there was the pandemic, right? And a lot of people sort of, were not working during that time, so they put their business to the side. So that can actually tell a customer that you were not strong enough during a hard period in life. So if you were not active during that time, guess what that is telling about your business? That maybe you are only going to work when times are good, and people don't like that. It's particularly important. You want your site's appearance to reassure that your prospects that you are the man for the job. And it's also part of you telling a message. You don't necessarily have to tell people what you're doing, but they can tell that, wait a minute, this doesn't work anymore. Beyond the part about looking fresh and up to date, there's also an issue about the site's functionality, because some things you can tell that the screens back in the day were a little bit smaller, right, for the laptops. And if you haven't optimized your website to fit modern screens, people can tell. Right now, if you go on Netflix and look at shows that were created, like TV shows that were created in the 1990s, you can tell that they were created for a very short screen, for a very small screen. And you can see the sides of your big flat screen TV, where, those black sides there, that shows you how that, TV show was optimized for smaller screens. And you can tell how aged that content is. So if your site was built prior to the year 2002 or 2000, you probably find it awkward. And if you want to add new content or edit, existing content, the change in its appearance might actually give it away. Some fonts have been discontinued. Some, functionality like Flash no longer works on current screens. So you want to make sure that you're up to date with just about everything else on your site. Or if you built your site with some kind of maybe free template, there's very little that you can do to actually do the change. And maybe some of those platforms have been discontinued, or they would have started off as a free platform. Now you have to pay for every change. I mean, not to even mention the fact that maybe an old static site makes it hard or even, impossible to navigate. And if you start adding a lot of functionality on it, it actually stops working, especially when people are trying to access it from different, screens from these days. So putting it simply, if you want your coaching or consultant, business or site to look good, and that's the place you're sending your prospects to, and you want that message to sell for you while you're not there and sending the right message, you need to have it on a platform that actually allows you maximum flexibility. I'm not advocating for any, platform or anything of that sort, but I'm just really saying you really want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. I was talking about how you go to, a client meeting. You will definitely choose your best shirt, your best dress. You're not just going to wear something that's wrinkled and that you just picked up from your hamper there. I mean, as I think back to maybe various visions of my website, I started off with something from Wix and then I upgraded. Now we've got whiz bang website that is actually in line to win an award. And since then, I know that my site has gone through a number of design variations. If you look at my website, there's a tool called Wayback Machine where you can actually see the stages of how a website has been changed. It's been a number of design variations. I started off as a personal brand, and then I wanted to present myself as a business. And then from there, I came back to a personal brand again, even though I've got a team behind me. And all those versions have reflected the changes within the industry, where we can call it fashions, in addition to shifts in my own messaging, my own personal growth, and things of that nature. So if you're not changing your website, are you trying to tell your clients that you're not growing? Because that's the message they're listening to right now. And as of this week, our website has, I think we've got over 3,000 pages that we've built on WordPress. And it's so big and so vast, and each landing page tells a different story. So, you might be saying, oh, I don't have the time or the capacity or anything else. Well, your clients are judging you. Your clients are looking at exactly what it is that you're doing and how you're, showing up into the world. There's so much that you can put together. But most important of all, I know that sometimes we might be influenced by other gurus out there to just concentrate on social media and then, talk to our clients, when they show up. It doesn't work like that. Our clients are searching. Our clients, looking for the best advisor out there, and how you show up, how you present yourself to them matters. Ultimately, there's just two reasons why you need to keep updating your coaching or consulting website. First of all, you need to look current. That's an easy one. And you can't afford for your site to look old. It's just bad for branding. And secondly, you need to build on a platform that actually allows you to connect seamlessly with other apps, functionalities, or plugins. And as a freelancer, I think you should actually be using, social media, yes, as a part of driving traffic back to a property that you own, which happens to be your website. So let's go back to the part about keeping it fresh. Because yes, I understand your business is important to you and you probably want it to be important to other people too. But how can you make it important? Have you ever noticed when, people look at a baby, they're like, oh my gosh, she's so cute and whatever. Nobody likes ugly babies. So an outdated or hard to navigate website can actually turn clients off before they even know who you are, before they even want to talk to you. Because if you can't look after your own website, how are you going to be able to look after my health, my wealth, or my relationships? So if your website looks and feels a little bit outdated, then your prospects will actually turn away. And they're never going to look back because there's so much opportunities out there. We're spending hours and hours and hours learning about our businesses when our clients only have 3 seconds to make a decision. And if your website is not helping with the decision process, grand opening, grand closing. So how do you instantly captivate your potential clients? Easy. Keep your website up to date by using safe practices or, standard operating procedures out there. And if you don't know how to do that, just hire somebody who's able to do that for you. So there's things that you need to focus on when you're updating your website. I'm not saying you go in your website with a sledgehammer, but you actually go in with a scalpel. So you want to maybe update your website security, because nowadays, if your website is not on a secure platform, people that are on Chrome or on, Microsoft Edge can actually be told that this website is not secure. Can you imagine if that is the only thing that then deters your website from being visited? So you want to make sure you lock it down with the proper SSL. Because security should be one of the top priorities for your business, either large or small. Right now in Australia, we're working, towards a breach in privacy that happened with the second biggest telecommunications company. We hear all too often about large companies that get hacked. And right now, Optus has been hacked. Compromising information, such as maybe clients' credit cards, social security numbers, or Medicare numbers, things of that nature. This actually leads to a lack of trust, and it also hurts the business, because if people cannot trust your business, how are they going to want to do business with you? And your clients may actually choose to go to your competitors for fear that their information might be compromised again. So you want to make sure that your website is locked in with the SSL. I think it's called the Secure Sockets Layer, SSL. Ask your designer if your website has a SSL, or you can just look on your website. If it reads HTTPS, then you've got a secure website. So SSL is a secure form of transporting information from a server to a browser. People value their security. People value their privacy. And pretty much once you've done that, you want to start boosting your SEO. I mean, let's say you've got a goal of working out and getting muscles and getting toned up, and you visit the gym maybe 8 times over the course of 2 weeks, and you start feeling accomplished, right? Do you actually just stop there? Do you just do 6 sit-ups so you can get 6 abs? If you're not dedicated to your goal, then obviously you're not going to achieve the success that you want. And that's the same principle that applies to your search engine optimization. If you're truly dedicated to landing that top placement for specific keywords and content, you need to keep putting in the effort. Your content matters. The way your website looks matters. The way people navigate that website matters. Plus, there's companies like Google's that are always changing their algorithms. And if you had your website predicated on past, algorithms, it shows on your site that maybe you're not content centric, or you're just keyword stuffing just so that you can, win the battle of being, ranked higher on Google. And the best way for you to stay ahead of these updates is just regularly updating your website content. And this actually shows Google itself that you are a reputable source, which will then result in higher rankings and more visitors coming to your website. So not only is that helping you grow your business, but it's actually making it easy for people to do business with you. And if you're going to be working in this space, you're dealing with people that are always, technologically advanced in some form or another. Because updating your website regularly is also important if you want to keep up with technology. And technology is always changing. And if you want to make sure that your website is changing with it, then you want to make sure that you have constant and, strategic updates regularly. Because if you do so, you're actually giving your users the best experience, which will make them want to visit your site more frequently. So have you got tools that people can use? Let's say you're a mortgage broker. Have you got, banking calculators that you might use? Have you got investment calculators that people can use? All of that technology is available for people to use. As a coach, have you got things that people can download and they can actually start getting an experience of how you can work with them? And that's why you need to always keep your website content fresh. People are coming to the internet to get information. And if that information is coming from you, then you, my friend, have a business that's profitable and enjoyable. Because better content actually gives you more traffic. If you keep the content up to date on your website, it actually helps build trust between you and your customers, because you're giving them the information that they're coming to the internet for. And most likely, customers actually rely on your site for useful information, in whatever market you're in. So if you're in the financial market, when the stock market goes up and down, or whatever it is that your customers might need information on. Because updated information also helps you build your brand. People are coming to you for information. You are now the trusted advisor. And not only that, you're actually building brand authority, because once you've got that brand or domain authority, Google actually favors, sites that are relevant and are helping people with, the expertise that they have. So, at the end of the day, you just want to make sure that your site is presenting you in the best light, because once your website looks old, it will actually damage your brand. I mean, have you ever, like I was mentioning the other time, have you ever visited a website whose copyright is, say, maybe 2014, and their latest blog is maybe a few years old? Does it make you wonder if they're still in business or they still service in your area? Because if they're still in business, then somebody would at least update that page, wouldn't they? So having outdated content on your website, mentioning things like an old location of your business, or not using modern technology, can actually be perceived by your potential customers that your business doesn't keep up with the latest trends, or you're no longer in business. And why would anybody bother making an inquiry? Because they know they're not going to be answered in the first place. So anytime a customer reads content on your website that makes them feel, wait a minute, I don't understand that, or nah, that's not right, or that no longer exists, you're actually hurting your credibility. Wouldn't you want to be your trusted advisor in your marketplace there? And one other thing that happens when websites become old is, especially if it's got plugins behind, it starts collecting or gathering digital dust. And digital dust is usually spam or, gateways through which people can hack your account, and, other unnecessary links to places that you actually don't want. And it then, makes your website load a little bit slower. So by you updating your website consistently, you're actually improving page load speed. And it's no secret that people don't want to wait for information. We have a thirst for urgency right now. We've got, instant gratification. So when they log onto your site and they want their information instantly, and your site is taking too long, as if it's something coming out of, Y2K, then they're going to find somebody that is quicker, better, faster. So when you update your website regularly, you should actually be improving the website loading speed and website updates that use new technologies, especially these days, contain them within themselves cleaner code, and it actually lowers your website's bounce rate. We can talk about that a little bit later on. And this actually then overall improves your Google ranking. And the design also matters. Packaging matters. Some businesses just focus on content and maybe just the internet marketing side of things, but fail to address the actual design and navigation of the website. Some of the things you want to avoid on your website include difficult navigation, colors that are either too boring or too obnoxious. Yes, I know your brand is very colorful, but maybe that takes away from the actual content and the use of that site, and sometimes it unnecessarily, have long contact forms that your clients have to fill out, and they don't want to jump through all those hoops. All of those things can lead to a website that actually steers clients away, even if your content is top notch. Right? These days, people approach the internet using their mobile phones. So if the content is not easy to read for somebody who's on the go, I'm sorry, man. So mobile friendly design is essential. 60% of the traffic that comes to the internet is coming from devices like iPhones, iPads, your Android phone, or whatever tablet. And this means that if your website is not mobile friendly and is easy to view on a smaller screen, you'll be missing out on over half of your potential clients that might be coming to your website. It's that simple. So if you understand and you've identified your target market, you would know how they are approaching, your website. Because your website design should actually focus on those whose needs you are, servicing, whose problems you're solving. Your website design should focus around the needs of your target customer. This means providing, accessible, engaging content that your ideal client is searching for. And it also means that the website is ultimately focused around converting those visitors into customers, because there's no point in people showing up to your website and not converting. So your target market may change over time, and as you expand your business, or as you expand your messaging, or if you hire new employees, then you can now start serving a bigger, market pool. So you want to invest in new tools. You want to update your website. You really want to make sure that the content on your website fits the kind of business you're running currently. I mean, you could do what you want with this, podcast today, but We're driven by wanting to have the latest and the greatest, and that's what your customers are also seeking while they're coming to work with you. We like for things to be new, refreshing, and up to date. And if this is how our culture is driven, that's how they shop. And so why should your website be out of date and stale if you are the person that's going to deliver outstanding results for your people, and yet you're presenting as somebody who's homeless or doesn't even know how to get the results that they say they're going to be getting. So let me tell you something, man. Last year's fashion already is looking old. Last year's smartphones are looking old, and last year's websites are also looking old. Have a look at your site. First of all, go to the copyright section and see what year it says you're in, and then go in and look at your last blog post that you posted. What year, what date, what month, and then calculate the distance, because the further you are from any new or recency, the further you are far away from the bank. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, let's continue the conversation in the Live Long Digital community. Become a Live Long Digital community member today. This community is for ambitious entrepreneurs and small business owners with the drive to take control of the future of their businesses and achieve huge success without stress and overwhelm. As you heard, Prosper can help you by teaching you marketing strategies that work. So, look no further than the Live Long Digital community of entrepreneurs and highly successful business owners. Join our community today. Find us on www.community.livelongdigital.com.au. Network with other driven entrepreneurs and find the expert guidance you need to take your business to the next level. www.community.livelongdigital.com.au